Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am the company's expert. Congratulations, and thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. If you are here, know that you're awesome. You've come to get advice from the absolute best source in the world, the man with $1 million hair, me. This is episode number 70 of Side Hustle Ideas. We've done 70 of these episodes before. It's hard to believe. This is the weekly live stream where we talk about business, we talk about entrepreneurship, and if you are looking to start a business or start a side hustle, which is the sort of most manageable and compact version of a business you can get, you've come to the right place. If you're just looking to tack on an income stream, or you're looking to actually step into this larger world and consider the possibility of not spending your whole life working as an employee under someone's thumb for somebody else, this is the right place to be. That's what we talk about. This is an interactive live stream, so I respond to questions and comments. So if you are seeing me right now, you should see a chat box of some kind in the vicinity. So get in the chat box. Let me know where you're from. Let me know what you're wondering, what you're struggling with. I am going to be talking about the topic of this episode, and then we're going to be answering your questions. So the title of today's episode is How to Write a Business Plan and What is Cash Flow? So we are going to be covering those probably in reverse order. In fact, I can tell you we will be covering them in reverse order. So Sunil is here. So first message from incredible India, right on. Thank you for being here. Okay, let's just dive in, okay? The topic, what is cash flow? And why should you care about this? Well, I don't often talk about the sort of financial side of things. I do touch on it here and there. I have a master's degree in finance. I don't talk about it that much on here because surprisingly, when it comes to creating a business and being successful in business, you would be surprised how accounting and finance really don't play a major role. Why do I say that? I say that because when you create a business, you are creating value. And presumably the reason why your customers buy something from you is because you're providing them value. And the whole idea of value creation has nothing to do with finance and accounting, not directly. It's marketing and operations that are primarily the thing that's responsible for value creation. You need to have something that people want, and you need to be able to connect with people who want to buy it and sell it to them. So that's operations and marketing in a nutshell. So that's where a lot of the thinking work and a lot of the real effort goes, because in order to make money, you need those two. And the money tends to follow. So the key is to be able to create something of value and be able to sell it to people, and then the rest falls into place. Assuming you haven't done anything excessively crazy or stupid, the money generally follows. So that's why we don't talk about this. But today we're going to be talking about it, and we're talking about what is cash flow. Now, if you don't come from an accounting background, okay, you haven't been to school to learn about accounting and you're not an accountant, or you haven't learned about finance and you're not a financial manager or anything like that, you may not know some of the basic concepts here. The first thing you need to know is that the study of money is kind of divided into two, right? There's the accounting side and then there's the finance side. They're two largely separate studies. You learn completely different things. You're dealing with money, but the concepts you learn are completely different. Accounting is money in the past. That's where you learn about auditing. You learn about where did the money go? How much money did we make? Did we pay our bills? Where is the money now? That's all accounting. Finance is about money in the future. What could we do? Should we do this? Should we do that? If we do that, what likely will occur? If we do that, what likely will occur then? Right? That's finance. Finance deals with things like risk and return, probabilities, that kind of stuff, calculating stuff that will happen in the future. Accounting deals with, what happened in the past and how do we look at it. So as a result, you could come from either of those worlds into the startup world and look at money in a startup or a side hustle or a small business through either of those lenses. And none of them is the complete picture, and both of them are valid. But in order to understand business, you need to look at the business through a variety of different lenses, and those are only two of them. So I don't usually talk about that kind of stuff. Nabil is here and says, great speaker. Thank you very much, Nabil, if that's presumably referring to me. Is it ego to assume that that's referring to me? Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, so you may have heard the term cash flow thrown around, and you also might have heard some basic accounting terms thrown around. For example, accountants prepare 4 main financial statements. So you might have been familiar with these, right? The income statement, the balance sheet, the statement of cash flows, and the statement of owner's equity. You might have heard of those, and those are 4 standard documents that accountants prepare. Probably the most common thing that the lay people know is profit, right? How much profit did we make? This is firmly in the world of accounting, because in order to understand what profit you made, you can't just look at your bank statement. If you had money going in and out of a bank account, you've got revenue coming in from sales, you've got money going out to cover costs like expenses, right? Some of the money in there is hopefully a profit that you will keep in there, but just by looking at your bank statement, it's hard to tell if you're making money, if you're losing money. It's inconclusive, right? In order to understand what's going on, you have to really delve into what each transaction is and say things like, oh, that transaction, that is money coming in. However, it's not profit because that money has been appropriated. That means it's been put aside to cover this expense that we're going to have next month, right? So that's not profit. That's money that is already spoken for. It's pegged to cover an expense that's coming up. So unless you can interpret what all those transactions are and what they mean, you can't begin to understand if you've made a profit or not, and by how much. So accounting is basically a study of interpretation of money. What it is, what it's pegged for, how you regard it, right? Like, for example, if you put in money to, say you operate in a building, you have a store, and you need to fix the roof. So you fix the roof and you build it stronger, right? Now, the money you spent on that, does that count as a cost, or does that count as you're investing in your property and you're improving it, right? It could be both of those things. It could be neither. It could be one or the two. It gets complicated, right? So this is what accountants do. They interpret what money is, okay? And that's the accounting side of things. That's one way of looking at things. On the other side, there's the financial manager way of looking at things, the person that does finance instead of accounting, and they operate completely differently. Financial managers who study finance, and that concerns themselves with the future, what they should do in the future, they focus on something called cash flow. And cash flow is simply the amount of money moving in and out of your bank account. That's what it is. There could be a variety of reasons why money would move in and out of your bank account. It could be expenses, it could be sales, it could be paying off loans in interest and stuff like that. It could be setting aside money to cover future expenses or to pay for inventory. There's a whole bunch of reasons, but cash flow and on the side of finance, they don't worry about any of that. All they do is they look at the balance of your bank account, how much came in, how much went out, and that's all they concern themselves with. No interpretation. The balance last month was this, say $1,000. The balance this month is this, say $2,000. You had a gain of $1,000. No interpretation necessary. You had $1,000 net cash flow into that bank account. So That's what financial managers do, and that's what cash flow is. It's the moving of money, not what it's pegged for, but the fact that it's moving around. And the goal of an accountant is to maximize profit. The goal of a financial manager is to maximize cash flow. So they want as much money as possible moving into your bank account every month. That could be by taking out loans. It doesn't matter. But they want them to maximize the amount of money coming in. So that's what cash flow is. It's a completely different way of looking at money. It doesn't require any interpretation. Now, generally speaking, in small business, different people have different ways of doing it, but a lot of people regard this method of looking at your money, the financial manager method, as the more appropriate method if you are starting a business. The maximizing of cash flow is your goal. So your goal every month should have the balance of your bank account go up, 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 up. That should be the goal. And if you can sustain that, you win. Okay, Nabil says, of course that's you. Thank you for what you are doing. Well, you're absolutely welcome, Nabil. Let me know if you have any specific questions about any of this. Okay, so what you can do, and I'm going to see if I can do this here, because I want to do more screen shares when I do these live streams. So I'm going to see if I can open up a ChatGPT prompt, everybody's favorite tool. And if you are not using ChatGPT yet, I highly encourage you to check it out. It's an incredible tool. It's not the be-all, end-all, but it certainly is something that's very, very useful. It's a very, very powerful tool. So let's do this for fun here. So what is cash flow? Now that I've sort of set this up for you, let's zoom in so we can see what it's saying here. Okay, so here we go. Cash flow, like I said, refers to the movement of money in and out of a business, an organization, or your own personal finances. It represents how much cash is generated or spent over a specific period. Cash flow is a crucial measure of financial health, as it indicates whether an entity can meet its financial obligations, reinvest, or sustain operations. Okay, so I highly recommend that you read up a little bit on cash flow, because it is a slightly different thing than what accountants do. Accountants do deal with cash flow, but only as an indirect kind of thing. Accountants care more about profit. And in order to understand profit, you need to interpret what's going on. And that's where the problem lies. Okay, get on ChatGPT. It's an incredibly useful tool if you're not already using it. And look up some of these concepts. I highly encourage you to do that. That's what I have to say about cash flow. That's where we're going to leave it today. I'm going to go over to questions, so get in the chat and let me know if you have any questions. And if we get some questions, I will answer those, and then we'll move on to our main topic, which is about business plans. Let's see what drink they brought me today. Coffee. I highly suspect it's Tim Hortons coffee, which is not all that great if you've had Tim Hortons. My personal experiences, it's not that great. It's basically sludge, but if you put enough cream and sugar in it, you can make it something that you could tolerate. Yes, but it's got a hell of a lot of caffeine, and God knows what else is in there that picks you up. So that's the main thing. Okay, not a lot of questions coming in. Thank you. There are 16 people here. Thank you for joining me today. Okay, let's move on to our main topic. And our main topic today is how to write a business plan. Now, this topic has been covered many places by many people many times before. And you can easily look this up. And usually what they do is they sort of give you the sections in a business plan, right? So you're going to talk about your business. You're going to say what its name is, how it's structured, what it involves, how many assets, who is involved in it, all that kind of stuff, what you do. You're going to describe that. And then you're basically going to cover the different areas of business. So marketing, operations, finance, possibly accounting, those are the big ones. And your business plan is going to be a reflection of that. And then you'd have a sort of executive summary at the front. And there you go. Now that's been talked about God knows how many times. That's what so many people have commented on. We're going to go beyond that today. Okay, I'm not going to cover all these things. You can easily find out. Let's do, once again, just to kick this off, let's do a basic chat GPT thing. How to write a business plan. And you'll see what I'm saying. I'm sure it'll give you all the cliched sort of basics, which are, here we go. All the sections. So executive summary, you describe your business, basically what I just said. And then it will have, like the marketing, operations, finance and accounting, right? This products and service, that sort of goes into your description of your business. Okay. People have talked about the sections. We're going to go beyond that. Knowing these sections does not necessarily mean you can write a coherent business plan. It goes deeper than that. This thing is still going. I'm just going to let it finish. There we go. Okay. So this is like the sort of idiot's guide to doing this. Be clear, use data, make it professional, right? Yeah. Okay. So this might be good for like a beginner. Okay. But if you actually want to do this in the real world, there's a few principles that you need to know, or else none of this matters because it will be just gobbledygook. Let's start at the beginning here. Hopefully everybody knows what a plan is. I know that sounds silly, but most people don't actually. A lot of people seem to think that a plan is the same thing as a to-do list. So if someone says, what's your plan? You would say, well, first I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to pick up my clothes from the dry cleaners, then I'm going to take my car in for maintenance, then I'm going to make some sales calls, then I'm going to create a prototype of my product, right? That's not a plan. That is a list of tasks for you to do. For it to be a plan, you need to have a goal. You need to clearly state what your goal is, and then everything that you're going to do has to follow this goal. They're all actions that serve to execute on the goal. If you don't state what your specific goal is at the beginning, it's hard to understand the plan, because if no one knows what you're trying to do, how would they know if your actions make sense? Does that make sense? You'd be surprised how many people don't understand this concept. For example, you go to your job and you make a plan, right? You might go to a meeting where your boss and a bunch of team members all decide on their plan. But if nobody really clearly specifies what the goals are, how do you know if the plan is good or bad? You don't. All you know is that you said you're going to do this and this and this and this. You have no idea if that's going to accomplish anything, right? So let's return to our topic here, how to write a business plan, okay? A business plan is more than the stuff that we looked at here, okay? Yeah, you can create a document that talks about what you're going to do, right? So you describe your business, you describe the market, which is like presumably the people you are going to be selling to. You describe your organization and management if you have other people involved. You describe what products you're going to make or services you're going to provide, okay? Now, for example, how do you know that these are the right products and the right services that these people will want to buy? Have you thought about that, right? If you just say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make this product, and you say, I'm going to provide these services, how do you know that those are the correct ones? You see, this is what's going through the mind of someone who is evaluating your plan, right? And if you haven't said what your goal is, let's say your goal is to sell one product, one unit of your product, and have one customer for your services. That's your entire goal. You figure, if I can sell it to one person, then I should be able to repeat the process and sell it to more, right? But all of this, right, and the decisions behind these were simply to sell it to one person, right? Now, maybe that's Not a bad goal. But if you said, okay, this is our market. Okay, these are the amount of people in it. And our goal is to sell 2 million units, right? This might be a tall order. The natural response from someone reading this who knows what they're doing is going to be, well, what's the evidence that you're going to be able to do that? That's what I would want to know. If I was an investor or I was someone that, had some stake in this thing working, that would be the first question on my mind. What's the evidence that you're going to be able to do this? Do you have a history of starting up businesses that are fabulously successful? No? Okay. Have you gotten any? Have you had any interaction with your potential customers and they've signed letters of intent that said they do intend to purchase your product and how many units if you give them a volume discount? Do you have that to show me? No? Okay. So how can you say that it's realistic for you to try and sell 2 million of these in, say, the first year? Does that make sense? So you have to go a lot further than just having these sections saying what you're going to do, okay? For it to be taken seriously. Presumably this goes to investors, lenders, partners, anyone that can help you, right? If you're trying to be acquired, if you're doing that kind of business, same thing, right? These are all questions that you're going to be asked. And they're pretty basic questions too. Okay? So it's very important. Everyone needs to know that a plan has to start with a very specific goal. And if your goal is to sell 10 units, your plan is going to be completely different than if your goal was to sell 1 million units. It will be night and day. It'll be completely different. So the very specific goal does matter a lot. Okay? Without the goal, you can't have any kind of intelligent discussion about what you're going to do and whether it'll work or not. So that's very important. So this is a business plan. It's not a to-do list. Okay, so hopefully everybody gets that. Now, let's move on to the next sort of concept that I'd like to cover with you. Okay, a business plan. Now, I have worked with many different types of startup founders and aspiring business owners, owner-operator types, and I can tell you this much. For the startup founders and a lot of the owner-operator types, there seems to be two basic types of people. One type is the technical founder. They're a person that deals mainly with operations. They deal with the technicalities of the product or service that they're going to provide. Okay? They tend to be more introverted. They tend to be more technical. They tend to be less tuned into the sales side of things and less extroverted. So they don't have lots of connections and they don't go out talking to 1 million people all the time. That's sort of one general type of would-be business owner or startup founder. The other type is the opposite of that. They're the sort of more extroverted type of business owner. They tend to have the sales stuff more together. But where it comes to developing a product or providing a service, that's where their weak spot is. Okay, they know 1 million people and they'd love to sell something, but they struggle with what they could sell and what value it could provide and all this kind of thing. Now, if you could get those two people to come together and both cooperate wholeheartedly on something, that would be amazing. You would really have something there. But in my experience, you get these two sort of types of people, both wanting to start businesses in isolation, and they each have strengths and weaknesses. Now, let's talk about the first type, which I have found that there's a greater concentration of those people on the internet. A lot more introverts, I think, tend to be on the internet rather than being out in person doing stuff. And that's fine. I'm a technical introvert myself. Here's the deal. One of the pitfalls of being a technical introvert or that type of person and wanting to start a business is that you can tend to be overly focused on the operation side of things and not focused enough on the business / sales side of things. Now, a common pitfall that I've seen these people do is that they misunderstand what's going on here. They mistake a business plan for a research project. You see, let's say you are a developer, you write code, you write computer programs like apps and things. That's what you do. And you have this idea that you're going to write your own app. I don't know if it's going to be a video game or it's going to be a productivity piece of software or whatever, but that's what you want to do and you want to sell it, either as a product or as a service, and make money. Okay, maybe that's kind of what you're thinking. And I'm using this as an example. A common pitfall is that type of person, you might be really, really focused on the development, on the writing of code, but you don't really understand or care too much about the business side, how you're going to make money. And that's where the other part of the term here comes into play. Business plan, right? This is a business plan, how to write a business plan. So the key word is also business. It's a plan and it's business. It is not a plan on how to write an app, nor is that what the readers of a business plan are interested in. So that type of startup founder or aspiring business owner, they'll go into great detail about the technicalities of the app that they're going to write. They'll go into great detail about it. This is how I'm going to do it. This is why I'm going to do it that way, right? But they won't have enough detail when they talk about marketing, when they talk about the existing market out there, when they talk about their marketing plan, how they're going to reach those people and convince them to buy. They won't have enough detail in the financial side. They won't have enough detail, in a lot of the business areas. So this is where it falls flat. You might be able to create this app, and that's great, but that's not the goal. The goal is not to create an app and lose money. The goal is to make money. That's the whole point. The creation of an app is simply a vehicle to make money. That's what a business plan is. So the business plan explains specifically how you plan to make money. That's what it's about. So describing what you're going to do in the operations side, that's not what it's about. That's all incidental. If Steve Jobs or some business person you look up to, I don't know, Elon Musk, I don't know, somebody you look up to, said, okay, let me tell you about this plan, about this new company I'm doing. It's going to be great. We're going to make a lot of money here. And if you come in as a partner or an investor, you will make a lot of money too. You put in some money today and next year I will have multiplied it by 10. Okay. Now, you might be interested in the general plan for like how we're going to make money, but the technical details of what the company does, that might not be super important to you, considering that it's being led by Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. You just trust that they know their stuff when it comes to, the technicalities of what to do, how to build something. They know all that. You don't have to micromanage what they're doing. They have a track record of success in that area. Okay, so what you care about primarily is, okay, how much money do you need now? When can I start taking my money out if I choose? And how much money will I have at that point? And what are your projections? And why do you have those projections? That might be your focus in the business plan. Right? So my point is that like that, you have to start thinking that way. That's the purpose of a business plan. It's not to detail in great detail what you're going to do and, the nature of the product you're building. That would be a research project. A research project is where you like build something and, to see if you can do it and see if it works correctly, but you don't really care about selling it. It's just to see if you can do this. A lot of companies, they don't even get to the point where they complete their product or provide their service. They don't even get that far. They run out of money when they're halfway through developing their product, right? And usually that's because they're too focused on the product. Right? It is possible to sell something in advance, right? As you guys know, you can take pre-orders. When you order something off the internet, that's how that works. When you buy something from Amazon, you pay now And then they send you the product when they can, right? And you should get it in this amount of time, but we'll get right on it after we receive your cash, right? So you could do that in your business too, right? You can have money up front. Then you wouldn't run out of money when you're halfway through developing your product, right? So business plan is about making money. That's what I'm trying to impress on people. You'd be amazed how many people just don't seem to get this. They think all they have to do is write down what they're going to do, send it to a bank, and then the bank will just lend the money. It doesn't work like that. Or an investor will just invest in you, right? It doesn't work like that. You have to explain and convince them what you're going to do and how you're going to make money. And they will want to see your reasoning backed up with evidence. What would convince you if a stranger approached you and said, hey, invest in my thing, right? That's what you have to do here. Okay? So that's the critical thing of what the business plan should do. It's not a plan of what you're going to do to create your product or service. It's a plan of how you're going to make money with it. And, it's all about sort of convincing people that you can sell it. Right? What do you think you'd have to do? Tell me in the chat. What do you think you'd have to do to convince someone that you're going to be able to sell something that you create, whether it's a product or a service? What kind of things would you think you would have to provide to convince a stranger that you can do this? Let me know in the chat. I'm not going to blurt out the answer. I want to see what you guys say first, and we can get into it. By the way, there are 23 people here. Thank you for joining me today. This stuff is fascinating. This, some people learn business in school and they're kind of very tuned into this. Some people are introduced to this kind of stuff from a very early age. Where I live in the world, it gets very cold, and there's about 1.5 feet of snow on the ground where I am in my city right now. And I have a house, and the door, I occasionally get a knock on the door, and it's little kids who, say, can I shovel your driveway for $1? And I think that's great. The parents are introducing children to this idea of business. It's like the very beginnings of the idea of business. I'm going to provide a service for you that you probably need, and you give me money and I'll be happy to do it for you. And if the price is right and it's the right service, a lot of people will be happy to buy their service, to engage them. I think it's great. Some people have been raised with this concept. Other people have kind of been sheltered from it. They don't really deal with this world and these ideas until they're much, much older. And that's fine. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But, for all the people who want to step into this world, it's great. And like I said earlier, the reason why this is great is because, unless you're, from a rich family or something, it means that you don't have to work for someone else your entire life. If you would rather not, you can do your own, create your own job for yourself and make your living that way. And there are some definite pros and there are some cons, but there are pros and cons when you work for someone else, right? So, okay, so Julia says, make a proposal of projected sales and income. Okay, well, that's sort of like the very, very beginning. You can say, here are my sales projections. I project that I will sell 5,000 units the first month and 6,000 units every month thereafter, right? Okay, but once again, you come back to the big question, which is, why do you think you can sell 5,000 units? Why 5,000? Did you just pick that number out of the air? What's that based on? Show me evidence. Tiger in the Mist, there's a good name, says, you need to show proof. Exactly. Now, what kind of proof? If you haven't done this, what do you think you could offer to convince someone that you are indeed capable of doing this? And you have to convince them enough that they will risk their own money. They will take money out of their pocket. They could use that money to go on vacation or something. They're going to take it and they're going to give it to you. And they say, I believe in you. If you can sell 5 million units, you will have doubled my money. If it turns out you can't sell 5 million units or whatever it was, 5,000 units, then I've lost my money. Right? What would you need to say to convince them? Okay, Julia says, make the market survey. Okay, so a survey would be a questionnaire, right? Now you go to people and you say, if I released this product, would you buy it, right? And then the survey has a box for yes and a box for no, right? If I were to make this product and I sold it for $100, would you buy it? Now, have you ever seen a survey where people say, oh yeah, I totally buy it, right? But then when it comes actually time to put their money where their mouth is, they don't. What you're going to find is that a lot of questionnaires work this way. When you ask people what their intentions are, they might have good intentions. They might say, oh yeah, totally, I'll buy from you. But if there's no skin in the game, there's no risk for them, they tend to say the right thing. Maybe it's a good intention, or maybe if you're there might be some social pressure for them to agree. They don't want to say, no, I wouldn't buy your product, like right to your face, right? So if you said like, okay, I'm taking pre-orders, would you like to buy this? And if you say yes, okay, so it costs this much, $100, so I'm going to need $100 from you, and I'll put you down for one, right? Would you get the same results that way as you would just a questionnaire? And I'm here to tell you, no, you wouldn't. In the vast majority of situations, people will commit to buying it when they don't have to actually pay anything, but when it actually comes time to pay, a lot of them who said they would buy it do not in fact buy it. So that's the problem. That's what we're up against. Now let me know, what do you guys think? What's the way around that? I'll give you one last sort of chance here for people to chime in with this in the chat. Get in the chat. Let me know what you think. What ways could you convince someone that you would indeed be able to sell what your projections say you're going to sell? If you say I'm going to sell 5,000 units in the first month, what would you need to say to convince someone that yes, you indeed will be able to do this? Let me know. I find it interesting how my microphone is not as loud as it usually is. I'm going to have to look into that. Maybe one of the settings on the computer is off or something. I'll give you guys another 20 seconds. Let me know in the chat. What do you think? What could you put as evidence? What would convince you? If someone said, okay, I'm here, I'm going to start a company, I'm going to make this, and I'm going to sell it, but I'm looking for people to invest. I'm looking for you to invest, say, $500 of your own money to help me get started. Okay, let's pretend you had $500. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know, but let's pretend you do. What would it take for you to be convinced if you don't know the person personally? Keep Up 2 says, creating a portfolio of previous projects. That's a great answer. That's one thing you can do. If you have a track record of success, that's definitely something that you can bring up. You can say, look, here's my history. I've already started 5 companies. They've all been successful. Here are their names and information, so you can go check them out, right? Do your due diligence. Look at these things. You'll see that they are successful. They were started by me. And here's information on them. Okay. That would be a great thing to do. Now, if you can say that, great. If you can't say that, obviously you can't just make it up, right? It doesn't work that way. But yes, if you can say that, that would definitely be very convincing for a lot of people. This is the reality of investment. Once you don't need the money, that's when everyone wants to give it to you. When you really need the money, that's when nobody wants to give it to you. That's one of the life's beautiful little things here. Julia says, show them. Okay, great. That's another great suggestion. So let's say you've created a prototype, okay, of a product, or you're providing a service. So you're in the service provision business, right? Maybe you provide plumbing services or whatever. And what you could do is you could give these would-be investors a free sample. You say, here, let me show you what I can do, and then you can decide. So that shows that I'm capable of delivering this thing. And let's see what you think of it. If you think that other people would be interested in this, then that would partly convince you that I can pull this off. Now, whatever you do, there's always going to be a counter argument. There's no perfect thing that proves in an ironclad way that you will be able to succeed. It just is impossible. You can provide partial evidence, but no more. Even a track record of success is no guarantee that just because you succeeded before, you will be able to do it again. Guaranteed, that's not necessarily true. Just because you've created a product doesn't mean it will sell. Just because you can provide a service doesn't mean it will sell, right? A lot of times people don't want what they should want. That's a problem with the market. And a lot of times there are a lot of great things out there, but you never hear about them because the word doesn't get out, right? It's a failure of the marketing efforts. Maybe you could provide it, but it turns out that your pricing structure is too high, your cost structure is too high, so you'd have to charge a lot more money than the existing solutions in the market. And so no one's going to buy your service for double the price of the existing ones, because although yours is pretty good, they consider the existing solutions good enough. They're not perfect. You can improve on it, but we're not willing to pay double. Sorry. You know what I mean? So there could be all kinds of issues like this that you encounter between the sort of prototype stage and, the delivering it to market stage. Okay. So these are some of the issues that we're up against. So yes, seeing is believing. So if you can create a demo of the product, that's definitely something. Now, the biggest sort of thing you can do to answer this question, in my opinion and based on my experiences, is to pre-sell. Okay? So you've created a demo, maybe a prototype product, okay? Or a prototype service. Great. Now what you're going to do is you're going to sell that. Okay. You could sell it before you even create a prototype. You could just tell people, this is what I got, this is what I'm doing, this is what it does. Now, who wants one? And then you state quite clearly, like, okay, you pay now, and then we're going to provide this for you or send it to you in this amount of time. Okay. And if for whatever reason we don't, then we'll give you your money back, but that's the arrangement, right? And if you can go to the market and you can propose that, say, here's what I got. Okay, it's right here. This is what I have. This is how it works. If you want one, this is how you order it from me. And this is the arrangement. You pay up front, and then we will produce this thing, and then we will send it to you. All right. Now, if you can get people that will buy, that solves several problems. The first problem it solves is, first of all, you are getting evidence that this product or service will work. Because everything is a guess at this point. You're guessing as to whether people want this. You're guessing as to whether you can convince them to buy it from you. And you're guessing as to what the price is. Okay? It's all guesses at this point. It can be educated guesses, but it's still a guess, right? So this will tend to back up those guesses with hard evidence. It'll say, yes, people do want this. The people who I predicted might be interested in this are in fact interested. Then it's saying, yes, they will buy it at this particular price point. Okay. The third thing it does for you, or that it shows, is that, well, the third thing it does for you is that it provides you with startup capital. So if you need money to then manufacture a batch of units of your product, this will give you the startup cash to be able to do that, right? So it funds itself, right? Because you're getting the money before you then have to pay a bunch of expenses to create this thing. So that's the best evidence. And you don't have to worry about, oh no, people say they would buy it, but when it comes down to it, they don't actually buy it. Okay, so it solves that problem too. So that's the greatest evidence you can get. And the added bonus is that if you are very successful at this, it kind of eliminates the need for a business plan and having to get investors if you're very successful at this, because you just fund yourself. It's called bootstrapping, right? So that's the other thing I would say. Keep Up 2 says, I'm currently trying to get into fully online consulting on electrical services, engineering services electrical. Okay. I need a way of convincing the first clients I'm capable. I have been on Upwork, but haven't secured a first client. So it's the beauty of life, like you said. I need a track record. Yeah. Now listen. Okay, I have a degree in engineering. It sounds like you are either have a degree in engineering or are pursuing one. So maybe we think somewhat similar. If you want to win at that game, what you need to do is network. And I'm sure the moment you heard me say that, you kind of you tuned out in disgust because you probably don't like to network. But that is the way that will open all the doors for you. Okay. What you need to do, this is what I would recommend, is get some informational interviews with people who are doing what you would like to do. So people who are consulting on engineering services in the electrical world. If there are companies, consulting firms in your hometown, you need to get some informational interviews with the people that run those companies. Get them, see if they'll sit down with you for half an hour. I've talked about that in this course, how to get informational interviews. It's an incredibly useful tool to find out absolutely anything you want to know about any industry. Is you go and you arrange meetings with people in those industries that know what you would like to know. Okay. So you can do this using Google Maps and LinkedIn. You know, Google Maps tells you what all the companies are around you that do this. LinkedIn helps you look inside those companies to the individuals and lets you contact them. So you can send them messages saying, like, I'd love to get your expert opinion on where this industry is going. Would you be able to spare me 30 minutes of your valuable time sometime, if that's possible? You know, you name the date, time, and place that's convenient for you, and I'll be there. Right. And you sort of send that out to, like, you know, hundreds of people that, you know, could potentially help you. And most people won't respond, but you'll get a few coming back that will respond. They'll say, sure. You know, it's a flattering thing for someone to receive a message saying, you know, hey, I'd love to know what you know. Would I be able to ask you a few questions? Is that okay? And some of them will say yes. You know, if you send it to 200 people and, you know, you get 4 responses and 2 of those turn into informational interviews, that's all you need. You sat down with 2, you got 2 contacts, and you can ask them about what they do and how the market works and, you know, where their clients are and, you know, have they tried selling to these people or to those people, or, you know, like anything under the sun that you want to know. Then it would be also good to get informational interviews with some of the buyers of that service. So the people that employ engineering service consulting and consulting engineering services companies. It would be good to get the people who engage them, right? These could be big business, they could be individuals, they could be people in different industries. You know, it would be interesting to sit down with them and say, like, you know, what do you look for when you know, shop around for a consultant in engineering services? What's the things that are important to you and how you make those decisions? And they'll tell you about it. They'll say, well, you know, we've stuck with this particular company for years and years and years. It's because I know the person and I trust them. So that's why I stick with them. You know, they might be retiring soon. I don't know if we'll do that in the future. I know there's other companies around. We've maybe tried them once or twice, but, you know, and you could say something like, well, what would it take for you to give a new company, you know, a try? Like, do you ever do that? If someone reaches out to you and says, like, hey, like, just give us a try, you know, we'll work cheap, we'll do a good job, Just try us out just this once. Let us impress you. Something like that. You could ask them if they do that or what their attitude is towards it. Like anything you want, anything like this, all these types of questions. And that would be very useful, right? The other thing is that now you're also making connections to people in this world, right? So you could call them up in the future and say, hey, I got a question, or, just so you know, I now offer this service. So if ever you want to give me a try, we're here, something like that. And they've met you, they know you, so that could maybe turn into something, right? So informational interviews are a great way to break into an industry. If the industry has events, they all get together, maybe there's a consulting engineer symposium or something in your hometown, maybe once a year. All the companies are there, all the clients are there, anybody in the larger ecosystem is there. You go down there and you meet everybody, bring along some business cards. So that would be what I would advise you to try and learn about. Get into that stuff, and you can do it. I mean, as I say, if you're wanting to learn that stuff from me, I put all that stuff into this course. This is mainly a course about how to get hired, but a huge component of it is how to get informational interviews and sit down with the heads of companies and things in your hometown. In this case, it's for, you would maybe follow up and ask them for a job. In your case, you'd follow up and ask them for a contract or something. But if you are interested, that's all here. I do have some free videos. They're in the description box below under a section called resources. There's one called How Successful People Get Hired that shows you how you set up informational interviews. At least it gives you sort of an overview of it. So check that out if you're interested. Let's see, what does it say here? Uniquea says, I have a business and awaiting clients. Okay, that's good. Tiger in the Mist. The best way to get a mentor is to offer something of value. Consider what you can offer in exchange for some time and knowledge. Okay. Abdullah says, I just finished a startup incubation program and am an experienced Chief Technical Officer. However, I'm not building my own product, but the product expert, co-founder, so I need to be the CEO and the CTO. A little out of my depth, so I would like to know how to go about building a complete business plan, including the cash flow. I already bought your MBA course. Should I just go through your previous long videos, or is there anything more practical? Well, listen, if you want to learn business, I mean, there's a lot to learn. And if you want to be a CEO of a company, there's quite a bit to know. I mean, I don't know what level of knowledge you're starting with, but the MBA course, like that thing right there, I mean, that will teach you everything in an MBA, and a lot of that is applicable. For startup type stuff, like there's some practical type knowledge, but it tends to be specific to the industry you're in. So for example, if you're starting up a construction business, like a one-person construction business, that's going to work quite a bit different where the rubber meets the road to starting up a software development business doing video games. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of practical information and knowledge, but it's all very industry specific. So to learn that stuff, where you find that is in the heads of the people who are doing it, who are in that industry that you can access, right? So I see you're writing some more. Let's see here. I have 18 years of experience in startups just as an engineer. Okay, yeah. Yeah, well, listen, the business side is quite a bit different from the engineering side. It's great that you have the engineering side, so that's not going to be a concern. You can really get into the technicalities with people, and that's great. But when it comes to making money, it's a completely different goal. It's a completely different game. So you have to learn that. Now, if you've taken the MBA course, I would recommend that you definitely go through that. It's going to take some time, but there's a lot to this stuff. It's like saying engineering, I need to learn it. How can I learn it in 2 weeks? It's like, I don't think you can. I mean, it takes people years for good reason. There's a lot to it, So I would definitely go through the MBA course. That'll give you the theory and all the principles. And that stuff is gold to help you avoid classic mistakes that most people end up making. Okay, that's what that'll teach you. It'll teach you how to avoid a no-win situation that you're going to blissfully walk into, not realizing it. Okay, but in terms of like how you can specifically get things happening in your specific industry, okay, you're going to find that by connecting to the people in that world already. Okay, as an engineer, you might have not been exposed to a lot of that. Maybe you did, but maybe you didn't. A lot of engineers, that's not kind of what they do, even in the startup world, right? Usually the CEO or the chief marketing officer or something is off doing that, and they don't see that part of the process. So it's about building relationships with potential customers, potential institutional clients or institutional customers, like all that kind of stuff. Understanding what their needs are, how to sell to them, what they're interested in, what they're not interested in. That stuff's very important. You need to actually do that before you can do the product design part, because it's not a matter of engineers saying, here's what we can deliver to you. It doesn't start with that. In order for it to sell, it has to start with the potential customers, like the prospects, saying, this is what we're into, this is what we're interested in, this is what our needs are. What can you do to help us? And if you then suggest, we have this thing that fits perfectly with what you're looking for, and they see it that way, then it's usually a win, right? Sometimes their worldview and view of like different products and stuff is out to lunch. It's diluted. As an engineer, how certain things are not a problem, and they just make sense. What the clients think might be completely 180 degrees polar opposite. And it's a tough sell to tell them like, no, you're actually wrong. This actually is very useful, but they're just not interested, So that's why the process has to start with talking to what your clients want, your prospects want, right? So that's more of like the business side. Okay. And that's only just the product design element, right? This is not even getting into how to sell, right? Or what to provide. Okay. Abdullah says, got it. That's what I thought. I'll dig in and learn a lot. Love your content, by the way. I learned a ton. Thank you. Okay, great. Yes, and come back, Abdullah, if you have any more follow-up questions. Like go through the MBA program, like the course, learn all the stuff. But if you have the time and energy, get out and connect with the people in your industry. That's the key to success. Okay? Even knowing what all your competitors are doing and the reasoning behind it is very useful, right? Okay? So best of luck with that. Okay, so today we have covered what is cash flow, okay, as a concept. Why people should be tuned in more to this than necessarily the accounting side of things, like in terms of profit and expenses. We also talked about how to write a business plan, okay, with less emphasis on the particular sections, but more of what the business plan is used for and what makes it successful. We talked specifically about how it's a plan, and a plan has to start with a goal, because if you don't have a goal, you don't have a plan. All you have is a to-do list, and no one knows if these actions are the right thing to do for you to do, because we don't know what the goal is. We also talked about the business side of it. It's not a research project. The business plan has one specific thing that it has to clarify, and that is how you are going to make money. It's not about what you're going to build. It's not about what you're going to provide. It's how you are going to make money doing that. And for it to carry any weight, it has to be backed up with evidence. You have to convince someone that you will indeed be able to do what you say is going to happen in the business plan. You have to be able to back that up with evidence so that people will presumably believe that you're going to be able to achieve the results you say you're going to achieve. Okay, so that's kind of our gist of it. If you have any comments, please, or questions, please get in the chat now. If we get some stuff in there, I will definitely stay and answer some questions. Abdullah says, this is my plan for now. Competitor analysis, market survey, product design, engineering, business development, go to market. Yeah, and what you're going to find is that it's not necessarily this linear progression. That's generally the order you look at it in, but it is like a gumbo. It's like a mesh relationship with all these different things. And you're going to have data coming in from not just your sort of sales and marketing efforts. You're going to have data coming in from customer service, like aftermarket support. If you've sold stuff and you're working with clients, you're going to have stuff coming in there. You're going to have stuff coming in from the side of every one of these steps, right? And they all have to be taken into account. And everything affects everything else. This is why it's messy. This is why companies go to great lengths to organize themselves in very sort of constrictive ways, because you've got to try and make sense of this and yet make an entity flow. The problem is some people get bogged down in a lot of this and they don't actually end up producing a product or delivering a service because they get overwhelmed by the amount of data coming in, and some of it contradictory from different sources, and knowing how to manage that. Like, for example, how often have you've been in engineering, so how often have you gotten instructions from like your engineering manager or something saying, this is what I need you to do. Yeah, I need you to build the product this way. And then an engineer just kind of goes off and says like, well, okay, we did that, but I also included this feature, and I went this other way with it. And that's what I'm presenting you with, and that can be that might be the right thing to do from an engineering perspective, but from a business perspective, all it results in is everything getting bogged down. Now you're creating a different product than what was proposed originally to the salespeople or to the customers, and what the customers said they were looking for, and that's the beginnings of where everything goes wrong, right? So the CEO is basically sitting on top of all of this, and they're trying to manage it. And the only way you can really do that is where you delegate a lot of these individual steps, like the engineering, to somebody else, because you can't. It's very, very hard to do all of it unless you've picked yourself a very small challenge that you can do, like one person can do. You just can't do all of this yourself. You have to coordinate, and you have to get these people talking to each other if it's more than just you. You can't have everything bottleneck through you either, where you're like the hub of all communication, and that introduces a whole slew of challenges right there. Abdullah says 75% of the time. Yeah, exactly. That's how it goes, right? I make sure to iterate and I fail fast. I remember Microsoft, like many years ago, they had a guy that they brought in, like he was from Microsoft. He'd kind of gone up through the ranks. What was his name? It was like Steven something. He led Microsoft Office doing the ribbon, and then he did Windows 7. Like he was the guy in charge. Steven Sinofsky. And Steven Sinofsky, when he came in, he basically laid down the law to all the engineers and said, like, no one is to develop a feature that hasn't been pre-approved first, because the problem is that everybody's just writing whatever stuff they want to write, and when we put it together, it turns into this big, bloated, colossal thing that has no consistency whatsoever. Everybody's doing their little piece all different ways, so it's not consistent, and it leads to a ton of reliability issues. It leads to our user interface looking completely different for every feature. Like, it's just a nightmare. So I'm really going to rein you people in. I'm going to like lay down the law. You will do what you are asked to do and no more, and you will do it precisely the way you're told. And engineers hated them. But Windows 7 was a tremendous success, and it was very, very reliable, which is not super common for a lot of Microsoft consumer products. And it was a massive hit, and they were thinking of making that guy the new CEO after Steve Ballmer, but they didn't. They promoted the head of the business services division. So I think Steven Sinofsky left the company or something, but it was a great approach to that, to like engineering management. I mean, yes, you don't let the engineers run free, so engineers don't like it, but it was he wrote the book on like producing a kick-ass product that perfectly delivered what the customers wanted, and therefore it was a massive hit. It's very hard to be disciplined like that. And I mean, I sympathize from the engineers. I mean, I have a degree in engineering, and I owned a software company once upon a time, like over 20 years ago. So I kind of feel a little bit for the engineers, but I mean, at the same time, you're producing something that has to be sold, and it's not for you, it's for the customers. And if the customers just don't want a thing a certain way, you shouldn't be making it that way. I make sure to iterate and fail fast. It's just much scarier when I have all the power and responsibility. Yeah, the thing to do it is don't spend vast quantities of money, like as much as possible. Just try to do everything. Always ask yourself, how can I do this for cheaper? And I don't mean cheaping out on the quality. I mean just the whole approach. Like instead of buying something, see if you can borrow it, like that kind of thing. If you can't borrow it, see if you can eliminate the need for it. Is there a way I could do this without the need for this? I'm just assuming that the only way to do it is to have the use of this. Is there a way you could achieve this result without needing this? What would that look like? A lot of people don't think like that. And you question some of these assumptions you always make. Is it always going to be this expensive? Do we always have to do it this way? Is there a way to do it without needing that? Is that possible? Now, sometimes the answer is no. You can't come up with anything. But sometimes the answer is yes. And you can do things more efficiently, quicker, and you can avoid a lot of overhead costs and things. The Perfect Network Engineer says, thank you for your support and suggestions. You're absolutely welcome, sir. And then a little thing. Thank you very much. I am Subhajit from India. Well, thank you very much, Subhajit. I'm glad that you're getting something out of this. Bob says, Sinofsky left Microsoft on December 31st, 2012 after the failed launch of Windows 8. Well, it wasn't a failed launch. It's just that they did a really stupid product. They broke the rule that I was just sort of mentioning, which is, go to your customers and see what they want. The problem is with that industry, and I know because I was in that industry, in most industries, the way it works is you find out what your customers need or what they want, and then you deliver whatever that is. That's usually how this works. That's kind of the rules of business. But in certain isolated industries, software being one of them, because of the things like Moore's Law, like where stuff was just advancing so quickly, for many, many years, it sort of created this weird mentality where in that business, because it was very, very innovative, a lot of the players, the producers in it, like Microsoft, they started thinking like, okay, I don't care what the customers say they want. If we were to give them what they say they want, there wouldn't be any innovation. They just want what they already have, but a little bit cheaper and a little bit faster or something, right? So they don't realize how useful some of these things are that we can produce for them until we force it on them. And that, of course, is false. If it is indeed as useful and as desirable as you claim it is, then you should be able to put your money where your mouth is and convince them that this is something that they indeed want and let them want it, rather than saying, no, I'm not going to give you the thing that you do want, and instead I'm going to force you to buy this other thing that you say you don't want. That breaks a lot of marketing rules. It breaks like the sort of laws of gravity of marketing. That's the problem with it. And once again, we were talking about discipline. This is where they did not show a lot of discipline. Instead of trying to sell the public on the Windows 8 user interface, whatever they were doing, they said, no, we're convinced ideologically that you will want this. We really think that once you've played around with it, you will want it, despite a lack of evidence of that. So they pushed it on their public, and then surprise, surprise, the public didn't want it and they didn't buy it, And that's where engineers won out over the managers, and they got what they wanted, right? Whereas the marketing people were not for any of this, and they said, I told you so, right? If the thing is as good as you say it is, you should be able to prove it with evidence. You should be able to present it to them and have them embrace it and have them want to do the thing that I said earlier in this live stream, which was do the pre-orders, right? To back up the evidence. Well, they didn't do any of that. And it was a combination of arrogance, and it was a combination of the engineering side was leading the strategy rather than the marketing side. And this is what you get, Because at the end of the day, it could be wonderful. It could be this amazing technological leap forward that's a great thing for humanity. But if nobody wants it, you lose, right? So there you go. Yeah, and I agree. That was Steven Sinofsky's folly. He was leading the charge on that. He dropped the ball, right? But you know what? This is the reality of humans. Geniuses, people that do like a great thing, they often then go on to do a complete flop, right? Einstein did that, after all these incredible things that he discovered and, everyone later proved. He then went on, the last years of his life was proving something that, he was trying to disprove quantum mechanics and all this kind of stuff. And, he died before he finished it. And he looks like he would have never finished because a lot of people basically, their attitude is it can't be done, right? You look at any great person that's made like one really great thing, and usually you see that, right? They have some tremendous flops, right? So, but don't look at the flop. Just take the lesson from when it was done right and use the flop as a lesson for how not to do it, right? In my humble opinion, Microsoft wants to be like Apple. Yeah, then we get into the whole religion between Microsoft and Apple. People that's kind of taken a back seat these days now that we've lost Bill Gates being in the driver's seat and Steve Jobs. It's just not as exciting. I remember 2003 was damn exciting in that world. And then shortly after, it just got super boring. But that's a discussion for another time. However, since Apple is no longer innovates, Apple can no longer say that. Yeah, I agree. They both sort of lost their edge, haven't they? Julia says, thank you for the insightful advice, Bill. God bless. Well, thank you very much, Julia. I wish you all the best. I got to say, you guys are awesome. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you got something out of this. Check out my courses if you want to learn business, if you want to really succeed in the business world. You need to know business. And the definitive way to know business is to get an MBA. And I have my own course where you learn an MBA for $100 US. There's absolutely no better bang for the buck around. So check that out. There's a link in the description. I've also got videos that describe the course so you know exactly how it works. But check that out. If you are thinking of possibly doing your own entrepreneurial type venture at some point in your life, don't learn everything the hard way. Learn it the easy way. Learn the theory. It'll save you making so many mistakes and losing so much money. It really is the way to go. When you act, you will act correctly. So check out that course. It contains all the stuff you would learn in a 2-year university program. And the reason why it does this is because it's a self-study thing. You get the textbooks, I guide you through it with videos, and you learn all the same material that they would learn. For example, you're getting some of the books that they use in Harvard Business School's MBA program. You're using the same textbook as they are in their classes, right? You can get this stuff off the internet. You can get it on Amazon. You just buy the right book, you go through it. You can skim the material if you just want sort of a basic overview, or you can go in depth, right? If you choose to go in depth, you can get the same amount of knowledge out of it that people get when they take the full-blown university program and take 2 years off and go and study that full time. And you can do it on your own schedule, fitting into your own life, on your own terms. So I think it's great. I have an MBA myself, and this is sort of a packaging of all that knowledge so that everybody else can benefit from it. A lot of the knowledge has been around for a very long time. It's like mathematics. It's been around for a very long time. It just seems strange that someone would charge you like $10,000 to teach you math, you know, if you took a degree in math. All the textbooks are there with all their problems, all the lessons. You can just read them all. You could do all the problems. You get the same result, you know, without having to spend $10,000 on it. And business is not as hard as math, okay? Accounting and finance have a bit of math in it, but if you can do math, I mean, you can do business. It's really not that hard. We talked to some engineers here today. Engineering is a whole order of magnitude more challenging than business. So if you can do engineering, you can do business. But don't make the mistake of thinking you don't need to know business to jump into the world of business. You will make a lot of mistakes. Keep Up 2 says, last question on image. What is the best way to portray credibility when approaching new people in your industry, from dressing to introduction? Well, I mean, look, how to dress and how to do an introduction, that's going to depend on the context. Are you talking to a CEO in their office that leads like a company that has 1,000 employees in it? Or are you talking to a sales rep at a trade show who's operating a booth for their company, and you're just going to see what the presentation is? You know what I mean? Like it's going to vary widely. Basically, it's best to not make great false claims, you know, like be honest. If you're just starting up, say you're just starting up, you know, because people can see through a lot of that. You know, if you meet with some important person and you say, oh yeah, you know, I'm a representative of a company with like 300 employees, like, yeah, they can see through a lot of that. So, I mean, having some personal integrity it does make you go far, you know. And that's a good thing, because in the beginning, if you're just starting out and you're saying like, look, I'm just starting out, I'm just looking for some guidance, looking for some tips here. I'm trying to learn everything I can about this industry and how this happens, you know what I mean? I'm just wondering if you could share what you know about it. I'd love to learn from you. You know, it's just the honesty side does tend to work in the beginning. It's a tremendous advantage because people will want to help you, you know. And if you're saying like, look, you know, I'm wanting to learn about this, how this stuff works, just to see if it makes any sense for me to pursue it, right? Something like that. That's a great way to frame who you are, you know, and why you're talking to somebody. It's also perfectly honest in the beginning, and people will respond to that. It's very flattering, and they'll try and help. All things being equal, they'll try and help somebody out. If it just means talking to them for a few minutes, you know what I mean? Bob says, if you can do engineering, you can do a lot of other things. Yeah, that's true. But as I have learned throughout my career, you do tend to sometimes have a blind spot, because engineer types, and I'm including myself in this, we collectively have a blind spot for the importance of networking and talking to other people. We tend to devalue it. We think that it's kind of a waste of time. It's unnecessary. I can achieve the same result without talking to people in person. I can do it all remotely or whatever. No, you have a blind spot there. You're not seeing how truly important that stuff actually is, and how valuable the skills of being able to do it actually are. Okay, now don't take this from me, but like open your eyes and look at the evidence. try some stuff. You will see that demonstrated in your life. Okay. But you have to be open-minded to seeing it. You can't just always just dismiss it. It shouldn't work like that. Therefore, I don't want it to work like that. Therefore, it does work like that. You know what I mean? Don't think like that. That's the big drawback of being an engineer type. However, I've run into a lot of engineers who do not have enough of an open mind to do, but you're absolutely right. Look at that. Perfect. I can well believe it. And they're also very dogmatic. It's very much like, this is the technical best way, therefore it's the only way we're going to go, you know? And it's just like, no, if people don't want to go that way, they're not going to go that way. They don't care that it's the best technical way to go. They don't care that it's the most mathematically efficient way to do things. They don't want to go there. Discussion over. You lost, you know? That's sometimes what you'll see, you know? And sales is an example of that. People buy what they want to buy. If they just don't want to buy that, they're not going to buy it. You can make the most impassioned argument in the world why they should buy it. But if they don't want to, they're not going to. You know what I mean? So what they want to do matters, even if it's illogical. Even if it doesn't make sense to you, you have to take it into account. That's why networking is important. You can't just sit on the sidelines outside of an industry and guess and say, it's logical that they should do it this way, so I'm going to assume that's how they do it. You can't do that. It usually is false. You have to go in and see what they're actually doing, and that's what you do. If you want to get in, right, and have them accept you and have them buy your stuff, that's what you have to do. And maybe some time in the industry talking to people, then you'll eventually learn why they do it that way. That seems totally unintuitive to you. Abo says he thanks from the insightful session. Joining from Saudi Arabia, I'm wondering what value could MBA course add to senior sales accounts manager in particular? Well, that's like saying, what value could a grade 12 education have for a car salesperson? You know, it's like, well, it'll help you in multiple ways, just having an awareness of how things work, you know? It's like saying, what would a degree in chemistry, what benefit would a degree in chemistry be for a pharmacist? It's like, well, there'd be multiple payoffs, right? As you understand now why things are the way they are, why, you know, pharmacy or whatever is done a certain way and not done a different way. Now you will know, right? And you will also know, you have more insight into maybe some of the drugs that you handle as a pharmacist, right? And like, look, I can't sort of explain what an MBA is like from scratch. All I can say is that it's the master's degree in business. If you want to know business, the gold standard for knowing business is a master's degree in business. That's what best equips you as general learning to go out and work in the business world, right? It explains everything. It explains all the marketing stuff, all the sales stuff. It explains all the finance stuff, all the accounting stuff. It explains operations, quality. It explains HR. It explains all the soft skills, you know, how people communicate and interact. It explains elements of sociology that describe how people behave in organizations. So all the weird stuff you see people behaving in all these incomprehensible ways when they're working in a company, it clarifies all that, and you go, I know exactly why people are doing this and that. Whereas before it didn't make any sense, right? So you'll learn so much, right? But I mean, don't take my word for any of this. Go out and do your own research on it, okay? I'm not just going to talk up this stuff to sell a course. I mean, go out and get your information from a variety of sources and do some research into it and make up your own mind, you know? That's what I'd encourage for anyone. but it will be very useful for you if you work in business to understand business. Well, sales. Okay, so Abo says, we have heard a lot of stuff about the MBA in general, and I'm keen to hear. It's like, it's almost like saying, what's the value of a degree in science? Like, well, if you want to work in a field related to science, it will help to know science, you know? And if you want to learn science, the way to do it, the proper way to do it, is to go to a university and take a degree in science, you know? You have the bachelor degree and then you have the master's degree. Now, if you have a master's degree, in theory, you should be a master of it. If you want to go further and take a PhD, that's what qualifies you to discover some new scientific principle and add to the body of human knowledge. That's what people with PhDs do. They don't just master what other people know. They have discovered something new. They've added to the volume of human knowledge on the topic of science, right? So that might not be necessary for everyone. You don't have to discover something new about science to work in a company doing science, right? A master's degree is kind of the gold standard. Bachelor degree teaches you, no offense, to be a grunt. You know the basics, but you're not really the master yet. In theory, that would be after the master's degree, right? And then obviously you need experience to fully qualify you in all of these things, right? Okay. So, I mean, I'm not going to sell you on an MBA. Go out and learn what it is. Learn why people get it. It's the gold standard. And I've done a video on called "What is an MBA?" You can watch that. You just do a search. The company's expert. What is an MBA? You know, you could start with that if you want to see my version of it, or just go out and learn about it. But it's just smart to learn your trade. You know what I mean? Like if you want to be an actor, it's just smart to go to drama school and learn your profession, learn your craft. You know, do you get people who become big Hollywood stars that don't have a degree in drama? Yes, we occasionally see that, but they're more the exception than the rule. And they tend not to be super versatile, right? They might be like a one-trick pony. They just do one thing amazing, you know, and it's partly from luck and partly they're naturally gifted in that area. But, you know, they're not like a professional actor in the sense that you could say, okay, now play Shakespeare, now play horror, now play comedy, now play drama. You know what I mean? Like professional actors that have been to drama school, they know all that stuff, right? So they're very, very versatile. So it's kind of like that. You know, you might have lucked out and started up something, not really knowing what you're doing, and then you just stumbled upon a magic formula and it made you a millionaire. Great. You know, but does that mean that you can then try your hand at any business challenge and always succeed? No. Usually what we see is like, it was luck, it was a one-trick pony. The moment you start doing something different, you don't get the same results and you won't know why, you know? And partly it's because you don't know your craft, right? But whatever, that's just my opinion. Go and do your own research. Anyway, I have to get rolling. It's been an hour and a half. Thank you to the 17 people that are here. You guys are awesome. And I will be back next Monday at the same time with another episode of Side Hustle Ideas. I am actually coming back in half an hour with another live stream, but more about jobs and recruitment and all that kind of stuff. So come back for that if you're interested. Thanks very much. You guys are awesome. I'll see you soon. Take care.